The three human cargo ships moved slowly through the dark space near the Outer Rim territories. Captain Minji sat in her pilot's seat aboard the lead vessel, watching the stars pass by on her screen. She had made this route dozens of times before. The ships carried medical supplies and food for the colonies on the edge of known space. Nothing valuable, nothing dangerous, just basic goods that people needed to survive. Commander Deho stood behind her, reviewing the navigation charts. He was older than most of the crew, with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many years of space travel. This was supposed to be his last run before retirement. After this delivery, he planned to return to Earth and finally see his grandchildren grow up. The second ship, commanded by Captain June, carried families of colonists heading to their new homes. Children played in the cargo bay, while their parents prepared for the life waiting for them. The third ship held nothing but grain and medical equipment. All three vessels were unarmed, as was the custom for civilian merchant ships. The galaxy had rules about such things, and humans followed them carefully. Minji checked her instruments and frowned. Something appeared on her scanner. 15 ships had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel, surrounding the human convoy in a perfect circle. The ships were massive warships, each one carrying enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Commander Minji said quietly, trying to keep her voice steady. "We have company." Deho moved closer to look at the screen. His face went pale. The ships belonged to the Galactic Council's peacekeeping fleet. Their hulls were painted with the symbols of the Krylos Empire, one of the most powerful military forces in known space. "Oh, open a channel," Deho ordered. Standard peaceful greeting. Minji activated the communication system. "This is the human merchant vessel Morning Star. We are on a registered trade route carrying civilian supplies. We mean no harm and request safe passage." Silence answered her. The warships moved closer, their weapon systems coming online. Red targeting beams swept across the human ships, painting them with death. "Repeat transmission," Deho said, his voice tighter now. "Tell them we're carrying families and medical supplies." Minji sent the message again. Still no response. The warships formed a tighter ring around them. Through the viewport, she could see the massive guns turning to face her ship. On the second vessel, Captain June was trying to protect the families in his cargo bay. He rushed them into the emergency shelters, small reinforced rooms designed to survive accidents. Children cried as their parents held them close. Everyone knew something terrible was about to happen. Without warning, the Council ships opened fire.
Ow.
Bright beams of energy tore through space and slammed into June's ship. The hull exploded in a brilliant flash of white and orange fire. 847 people died in 3 seconds. Mothers, fathers, children, all gone in an instant. The third ship tried to run. It activated its emergency thrusters and turned away from the attacking fleet. More energy beams reached out and touched it. The ship broke apart like paper, pieces spinning away into the darkness. No one survived. "Get us out of here," Deho shouted. Mingi's hands flew across her controls. The Morning Star had better engines than the other two ships, a fact that would save their lives. She pushed the ship toward a nearby asteroid field, a dangerous maze of floating rocks that most pilots avoided. The Council warships followed, still firing. Energy blasts hit the Morning Star's rear shields. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. The lights flickered as power systems struggled to keep working. A young engineer named Sunho ran through the corridors trying to keep the engines from exploding. Sparks flew from damaged panels. The smell of burning metal filled the air. "Almost there," Minji whispered to herself, steering between two massive asteroids. The Council ships were too large to follow safely. They hung back, firing long-range shots that missed in the chaos of spinning rocks. Deho activated the ship's recording system. Every sensor, every camera, every piece of data about the attack was being saved. The Council ships had their identification markers clearly visible. Their weapon signatures were recorded. Everything that had just happened was now preserved in the ship's memory banks. "Preparing jump to faster than light," Minji announced. Her hands shook as she entered coordinates for Earth. "We need 30 seconds. Those 30 seconds felt like hours." More energy beams hit the asteroids around them, breaking them into smaller pieces. One fragment struck the Morning Star's side, tearing a hole in the outer hull. Air began leaking into space. Emergency doors slammed shut, sealing off the damaged section. From the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Vexler watched the human ship prepare to escape. He was a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms, each one decorated with medals from past victories. He laughed at the fleeing humans. "Let them run," he said to his officers. "Let them tell their people what happens when they enter our space. Let them learn fear." His crew laughed with him. They'd been told that humans were weak, that they would beg for mercy, that they would pay tribute to avoid conflict. The Council had decided that humanity needed to be taught their place in the galactic order. This attack was meant to send a message. The Morning Star's engines flared bright blue. Reality twisted around the ship as it jumped to faster-than-light speed. In less than a heartbeat, the vessel vanished, leaving the Council fleet alone among the asteroids and debris. 3 days later, the damaged Morning Star limped into Earth's orbital station. Medical teams rushed to help the injured crew. Engineers examined the holes in the hull. And Commander Deho walked slowly to the communication center, carrying a data drive containing the footage of the massacre. He placed the drive on the desk of Earth's Defense Command and said 6 words that would change everything. "They killed our people without warning." The footage spread across Earth within hours. Then to Mars, to the lunar colonies, to every human settlement in known space. Billions of people watched as 2 civilian ships were destroyed. They watched as families died. They watched as the Council fleet laughed and let the last ship escape. Across human space, a cold anger began to grow. Not the hot rage that burns fast and dies quickly, but the deep, patient fury that plans and prepares. The kind of anger that builds weapons in secret and waits for the right moment. The Galactic Council thought they had taught humanity a lesson. They believed humans would beg for peace, would offer tribute, would accept their place as lesser beings in the cosmic order. They had no idea what was coming. The emergency meeting room in Geneva was completely silent. 50% of Earth's most important leaders sat watching the footage play on the massive screen at the front of the room. They had all seen it before, but watching it again made their blood run cold. Defense Minister Haiwan stood at the podium, her face showing no emotion. She had learned long ago not to let feelings cloud her judgment, but even she felt sick watching children die. When the footage ended, she turned to face the assembled leaders. 847 civilians, she said quietly, including 213 children. Murdered without warning, without provocation, without mercy. President Taijin sat in the front row, his hands folded on the table before him. He was a diplomat by nature, a man who had spent 40 years building bridges between Earth and other worlds. He believed in peace, in negotiation, in finding common ground. But as he watched the footage for the 5th time that day, he knew that some things could not be forgiven with words. "What are our options?" he asked. Admiral Bora stood up from her seat. She commanded Earth's 3rd Fleet, the largest and most powerful military force humanity had ever assembled. She was tall and strong, with scars on her face from a battle 20 years ago. 2 of her closest friends had died on those civilian ships. Their names were on a list she kept in her pocket, next to her heart. "We have 200 warships ready to deploy," she said. "Another 200 in reserve. The Council doesn't know about most of them. They think we have maybe 50 combat vessels total." Rumors spread through the room. Earth had been building its military in secret for decades, preparing for a day like this. While other species saw humans as peaceful traders and explorers, humanity had learned from history. Trust was good, but being prepared was better. "How long until we can strike?" President Taijin asked. 72 hours, Admiral Bora replied. "We've been running combat drills for months. My crews are ready." Tactical Officer Ji-hoon activated a holographic display in the center of the room. It showed the Council's military positions throughout their territory. Red dots marked shipyards, supply depots, and command centers. There were hundreds of targets, each one representing years of Council military buildup. "I recommend we hit them fast and hard," Ji-hoon said. "Take out their shipyards first. Destroy their ability to build more vessels. Then target their command and control centers. Within 6 hours, we can cripple their entire military structure in this sector." "What about civilian casualties?" asked Foreign Minister Kyung, a woman who had spent her career trying to keep Earth at peace with its neighbors. Zero, Jihoon answered immediately. All targets are pure military. Our intelligence is solid. We know where their civilians are and we won't touch them. This is about justice, not revenge. Engineer Yuna stepped forward with her partner, Engineer Sunho. They were the minds behind humanity's secret weapons program. For 15 years, they had been developing technology that would shock the galaxy. Our stealth systems work better than expected, Yuna explained. Council sensors can't track our ships properly. Our weapons have trouble locking on. We tested everything against captured alien technology. They won't see us coming until we're right on top of them. And our new jump drives, Sunho added, can move our fleet across space much faster than standard faster-than-light engines. The Council thinks it takes 2 weeks to reach their territory from Earth. We can do it in 4 days. President Taijin looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leadership. He saw anger there, yes, but also determination. These were not people who wanted war. They were people who understood that, sometimes, peace required strength. If we do this, he said slowly, there's no going back. The galaxy will see us differently. We won't be the peaceful explorers anymore. We'll be warriors. They already see us as targets, Admiral Bora replied. At least this way, they'll see us as dangerous targets. Defense Minister Haiwan pulled up another screen. It showed message boards and communication channels across human space. Billions of people were demanding action. Not blind revenge, but justice. The families of the dead deserved answers. They deserved to know their government would protect them. The people want a response, Haiwan said. Not just any response. They want the Council to understand that attacking humans has consequences. President Taijin stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the lights of Geneva spreading across the landscape. Millions of people going about their lives, trusting that their leaders would keep them safe. He thought about the children who died in the attack. They had trusted their government, too. He turned back to face the room. Prepare the fleet. We strike in 72 hours. Admiral Bora saluted. Yes, sir. What message should we send to the Council? Send them this, President, Taijin said. Just 3 words. Retaliation, incoming. Prepare. The message was sent within minutes. It traveled across space at faster-than-light speed, reaching the Council chambers in less than an hour. Arbiter Thelman, an ancient creature who had ruled. The Council for 200 years read the message and laughed. Retaliation? He said to his advisors. From humans? They have barely 50 warships. We have thousands. Let them come. We'll crush them and take their worlds as payment for their insolence. Admiral Vexther, safely back at his home base, agreed completely. Humans are cowards. They run from fights. I saw it myself. They'll send negotiators begging for peace, not warriors demanding justice. The Council's intelligence division reported that Earth had no significant military capability. Scans showed peaceful trading ships, small patrol vessels, and defensive platforms around their worlds. They saw exactly what humanity wanted them to see. What they didn't see were the shipyards hidden in asteroid fields, the weapons factories built inside moons, the training facilities where human soldiers had been preparing for exactly this kind of war. Earth had learned to hide its strength behind a mask of peaceful weakness. While the Council laughed and prepared for negotiations, Earth's fleet assembled in secret. 200 warships, each one equipped with technology the Council didn't know existed. Admiral Bora walked through her flagship, the Indomitable Will, checking every system personally. She spoke with her crews, making sure they understood the mission. We're not going there to conquer, she told them. We're not going to kill civilians or destroy homes. We're going to hit their military as hard as we can, and we're going to make sure they never think about attacking human civilians again. Her crews understood. They had all seen the footage. Many had lost friends or family in the attack. Wanted justice, and they were ready to deliver it with precision and overwhelming force. 3 days later, the fleet departed Earth orbit in complete radio silence. No messages, no communication, nothing that could be intercepted or traced. They moved into formation and engaged their new jump drives. Space twisted and folded around them as they vanished. The Council expected them to arrive in 2 weeks. The fleet would reach Council space in 4 days. When they arrived, they wouldn't ask permission. They wouldn't send warnings. They would do exactly what the Council had done to those civilian ships. They would strike without mercy. The Council's border station Omega-7 floated peacefully in space, its crew relaxed and unprepared. They monitored the usual traffic of trading ships and patrol vessels, watching for pirates or smugglers. Nothing interesting ever happened at Omega-7. It was the most boring assignment in the Council fleet. That changed when 200 human warships suddenly appeared around them. Reality split open like a wound in space, and the Earth fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. They came from every direction at once, surrounding the station before any alarm could be raised. The Council sensors detected them 3 seconds after they arrived. Far too late to respond, Admiral Bora stood on the bridge of the Indomitable Will, watching her tactical display. Every ship was exactly where it needed to be. The months of training had paid off. Her fleet moved like a single organism, each vessel knowing its role without needing orders. All ships, weapons free, she commanded. Target military installations only. Double-check every shot. No mistakes. The human ships opened fire. Energy beams and missiles streaked through space, hitting Council military targets with surgical precision. Omega-7's weapon platforms exploded one by one. Their shield generators overloaded and failed. Within 2 minutes, the station was defenseless. But Admiral Bora didn't destroy it. Instead, she sent a message. Omega-7. This is Admiral Bora of Earth Defense Fleet. Evacuate all personnel to the civilian sections. They have 5 minutes. The Council crew scrambled to obey. They had expected annihilation, not mercy. They rushed to safety while human ships held their fire waiting. When the 5 minutes ended, Admiral Bora's ships destroyed the station's military sections completely. The civilian areas remained untouched, their inhabitants safe, but terrified. Jump to Target 2, Admiral Bora ordered. The fleet vanished and reappeared at the Krylos. Military shipyard in Sector 7. This was where Admiral Vexther's ship had been built, where dozens of Council warships were under construction. It was one of the most important military facilities in Council space. Commander Minho led the assault on the shipyard. A squadron of 50 ships appeared above and below the facility, catching it in a devastating crossfire.
Ow.
The shipyard's defensive. Weapons came online quickly, but they were designed to fight traditional attacks, not the chaos of human tactics. Lieutenant Nari launched her fighter squadron from the Indomitable Will. 20 small, fast ships that danced through space like birds in flight. The Council's defensive systems tried to track them but couldn't keep up. Human pilots flew patterns that seemed impossible, breaking rules of physics that the Council thought were absolute. Nari's fighter screamed through a gap in the shipyard's shields, her weapons targeting the control center. She fired twice, precision shots that took out the command systems without harming the crew inside. Behind her, more fighters followed, each one hitting a specific target. Power generators, shield projectors, communication arrays. Everything military, nothing civilian. Engineer Sunho watched from his station, aboard a support vessel. His electromagnetic pulse weapons were doing exactly what he designed them to do. When fired at Council shields, they didn't just break through. They completely shut down the enemy's defensive systems. Ships that had been invulnerable suddenly found themselves naked and helpless. It's working perfectly, Sunho reported to his partner Yuna, who was coordinating medical teams. Their shields can't adapt fast enough to our weapon frequencies. The shipyard began breaking apart, massive sections of military construction falling away from the main structure. But the residential areas, where thousands of workers lived with their families, remained completely intact. Human targeting computers marked them as protected zones. No weapon was allowed to fire anywhere near them. Captain Juan commanded a special assault ship, designed for boarding operations. While the battle raged around the shipyard, she led. Her team toward Admiral Vexther's flagship, which had been docked for repairs after the attack on human civilians. Breaching in 30 seconds, Giwan announced to her team, "Remember, we want him alive. He faces trial, not execution." Her ship attached to the Council flagship's hull like a parasite. Cutting tools burned through the armor. Juan and 50 soldiers poured through the opening, their weapons ready. The council crew tried to fight back, but human soldiers were faster, better trained, and highly motivated. They found Admiral Vexler on his command bridge, surrounded by his officers. The tall alien looked at the human soldiers with disbelief. How had these weak creatures, these peaceful traders, become such terrifying warriors? Admiral Vexler, Captain Juan said calmly, "You are under arrest for war crimes against humanity. You will be taken to Earth to face trial." "You cannot do this," Vexler protested. "I am a council admiral. I have immunity." "You had immunity?" Juan corrected him. "You lost it when you murdered 800. And 47 civilians without warning. Now you answer for what you did." Her soldiers secured the admiral and his senior officers. They were treated properly, not beaten or tortured. This confused Vexler even more. He had expected humans to kill him on sight. Instead, they gave him water and made sure he wasn't injured during the arrest. The battle for Sector 7 lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 5 major council military installations had been completely destroyed. Hundreds of warships under construction were turned into scrap metal. The council's ability to project military power in this region was crippled, but not a single civilian had died. Human forces had been so careful, so precise, that even council citizens trapped in the battle zones survived. Medical Officer Eunice. Teams even went to damaged civilian stations to help treat the injured. Offering medical supplies and assistance to their enemies, Admiral Bora transmitted a message to the council chambers, knowing they were watching in horror. "This is Admiral Bora of Earth Defense Fleet. In the past 6 hours, we have destroyed 5 military installations and captured one of your admirals. We did this in response to your unprovoked attack on our civilians. We have shown you our capabilities and our restraint. Could have killed thousands. We chose to kill none. Hey, this can continue, or you can come to the negotiating table. You have 24 hours to decide." In the council chambers, chaos erupted. Species representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate retaliation. Others called for peace negotiations. Many simply sat in shocked silence, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. Arbiter Thelman watched his power crumbling. The attack on humans had been his idea, his decision. He thought he was dealing with weaklings who would submit to council authority. Instead, he had awakened something terrible. Species that combined overwhelming military power with frightening self-control. The council's intelligence officers were frantically updating their estimates of human military strength. They had been wrong about everything. Earth didn't have 50 warships. They had hundreds. Their technology wasn't primitive. It was advanced beyond council standards. And worst of all, humans knew how to use their power without becoming monsters. That last part terrified the council most of all. Any species could learn to destroy. But humanity had demonstrated something far more dangerous. They had shown they could strike with devastating force while maintaining perfect moral clarity. They killed machines and buildings, not people. They took prisoners instead of massacring enemies. They offered medical aid to those they had just defeated. Back on Earth, President Taijin watched the battle reports with mixed feelings. He was proud of his military's professionalism and relieved that no civilians had been harmed. But he also knew that everything had changed. Earth was no longer the peaceful newcomer, hoping to find its place among the stars. They were now the species that others would fear and respect in equal measure. The species that fought with honor but without mercy. The species that had proven the most dangerous combination of all existed, the strength to destroy and the wisdom to choose not to. The Galactic Council Chamber had never been so loud. Representatives from 40 different species shouted at each other, their voices mixing into a wall of noise that made thinking impossible. At the center of it all, Arbiter Thelman sat in his tall chair, watching his carefully built authority collapse around him.
"Order!"
he shouted, but no one listened. "I demand order." A representative from the Volter species slammed his hand on his desk. You demand nothing. You've started a war with a species we knew nothing about. You authorized an attack on civilians." "It was a show of strength," Thelman protested, warning to keep humans in their place. "And look what your warning brought us," said the delegate from Praxis 3. 5 military installations destroyed. Our finest shipyard reduced to scrap. And Admiral Vexter arrested like a common criminal. Some warning. The doors to the chamber opened, and a human walked in. Diplomat Seo Jin moved with quiet confidence, her formal dress sharp and professional. She carried a datapad, and nothing else. No weapons, no guards. Just one woman walking into a room full of species that had just attacked her people. The chamber fell silent. Every eye watched as Seojin walked to the center of the floor and stood before the arbiter's chair. She didn't bow or show any sign of fear. She simply looked up at Thelman with cold eyes. "The Earth's government sent me to deliver our terms," she said. Her voice carried clearly through the silent chamber. "Terms." Thelman tried to sound authoritative but failed. "You are in no position to make demands, really?" Seojin activated her datapad, and holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber. They showed Earth's military strength. 200 warships in active service, another 200 in reserve. Advanced technology that the Council didn't understand. "Because from where I stand, we're in an excellent position." She changed the display to show detailed maps of Council military positions. Every base, every shipyard, every defensive station. Earth knew exactly where everything was. "We could destroy every military installation you have in this sector," Seojin continued. "We've demonstrated we have the capability and the will to do so. But we don't want destruction. We want justice." President Taijin's face appeared on a massive holographic screen above the chamber floor. He looked tired but determined, a man who had spent too many hours making impossible decisions. "Members of the Galactic Council," he began. 10 days ago, your forces attacked 3 civilian vessels without warning or provocation. 847 people died, including 213 children. They were carrying medical supplies and food, they were unarmed, and you killed them. The chamber remained silent. Several council members looked away from the screen, unable to meet the human president's gaze. "We responded with force," Taijin continued. "But notice what we didn't do. We didn't attack civilian targets. We didn't kill innocents. We didn't become the monsters you apparently thought we were. Instead, we showed you that humanity fights with both strength and honor." Diplomat Seojin pulled up another document. "Here are our demands. First, full reparations for the families of every person killed in your attack. Second, Admiral Vexter and every officer involved in the attack will be tried for war crimes. Third, a formal apology from this council acknowledging your unprovoked aggression. Fourth, guaranteed safe passage for all human vessels throughout council space. And fifth, Earth receives full council membership with voting rights." "Impossible," Hillman shouted. "You cannot dictate terms to the council." "We're not dictating," Seojin replied calmly. "We're explaining reality. You attacked us thinking we were weak. We proved you wrong. Now, you have a choice. Accept our terms and move forward in peace. Or we continue demonstrating our military capabilities until you change your minds." A representative from the Mendari species stood up. She was old, her blue skin wrinkled with age, but her voice was strong. "I propose we accept Earth's demands. They are reasonable given what we did to them. We attacked civilians, deserve whatever response they choose to give us." "Agreed," said the Volter delegate. "The attack on human civilians was shameful. It violated every principle the Council claims to stand for. We don't make this right. We prove ourselves to be nothing but hypocrites and bullies." More voices joined in support. The species who had always questioned the Council's aggressive policies finally had an excuse to speak up. Others simply recognized reality. Earth had proven they could fight, and more importantly, they had proven they could win. Intelligence. Reports were still coming in, and each one made the situation worse for Thelman. Human ships were faster than Council vessels. Their weapons were more powerful. Their soldiers were better trained. And they had been preparing for this possibility for decades, while the Council assumed they were no threat. Ambassador Kyung, Earth's senior diplomat, appeared on another screen. He had been working behind the scenes, speaking privately with various Council members. His efforts were paying off. "Many of you have contacted my government asking about human intentions," Kyung said. "Let me be clear. We don't want to conquer anyone. We don't want to rule the Council. simply want what any civilized species deserves: respect, safety, and justice. Give us those things, and we'll be the best allies you could hope for. Deny them, and we'll be the worst enemy you can imagine. In a side chamber, Admiral Vexter sat in a human holding cell. It was clean and comfortable, nothing like the torture chambers he had expected. Guards brought him food that met his species' dietary needs. Medical Officer Yuna had checked him personally to ensure he wasn't injured during his capture. This confused him more than anything. He had killed human civilians without hesitation. He had laughed about it. Yet these same humans treated him with dignity and respect. They followed rules even when it would have been easier to simply execute him. Captain Jiwan came to speak with him. She stood outside his cell, looking at the admiral who had caused so much pain. "Why?" Vexler asked her. "Why didn't you just kill me? I would have killed you without a second thought." "That's the difference between us," Jiwan replied. "You kill because you can. We kill only when we must. We never forget that even our enemies deserve justice, not revenge." Back in the main chamber, the council was voting. The result was never really in doubt. Earth's military demonstration had made their point impossible to ignore. The only question was whether the council would accept reality gracefully or be forced to learn more painful lessons. Arbiter Thelman watched as his support evaporated. Species after species voted in favor of Earth's demands. Some because they feared human military power, others because they genuinely believed it was the right thing to do. A few because they had always wanted to limit the Ascental's aggressive tendencies and finally had the leverage to do so. When the vote finished, Earth's demands had passed with overwhelming support. Thelman stood from his chair, his long rule effectively over. He had one last chance to salvage some dignity. "The Council accepts Earth's terms," he announced formally. "Full reparations will be paid. War crimes trials will proceed under human jurisdiction. And Earth is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Council with all associated rights and privileges." He paused, looking at diplomat Seojin. "I underestimated your species. We all did. That was our mistake, and we will pay for it. But answer me this, human. What happens now? Will you use your power to dominate us as we tried to dominate you?" Seojin smiled slightly. "We'll use our power to protect ourselves and anyone else who needs protection. We'll use it to ensure that what happened to our civilians never happens to anyone else's. And we'll use it to prove that strength and mercy aren't opposites. They're two sides of the same coin." She turned to address the entire chamber. "The galaxy just learned an important lesson. Humanity is not weak, but we're also not cruel. We're simply done being victims. Remember that, and we'll all get along fine." The chamber erupted in discussion as Seojin left. Some council members were relieved. Others were worried about what this new balance of power meant. But all of them understood that the galaxy had changed forever. The peaceful traders who everyone ignored had become warriors who everyone would respect. The trial of Admiral Vexter took place on Earth. In the International Justice Center in The Hague, representatives from every council species attended, curious to see how humans conducted their justice system. Many expected revenge disguised as law. What they witnessed instead changed their understanding of humanity forever. Judge Borum presided over the proceedings with quiet authority. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. For 30 years, she had served on Earth's highest courts, earning respect for her fairness and wisdom. Admiral Vexter stood in the defendant's area, surrounded by human guards who treated him with professional courtesy. He had been given lawyers, both human and from his own species. He had access to all evidence. He could call witnesses and present his defense. Everything was done according to established law. The prosecution presented their case with devastating clarity. Video footage showed the unprovoked attack on civilian vessels. Communications logs proved no warning had been given. Survivor testimony from Commander Deho and Captain Mingi described the terror of watching their fellow ships destroyed. The defense claims Admiral Vexter was following orders, the prosecutor said. But even in following orders, he made choices. He chose not to communicate with the civilian vessels. He chose to fire without warning. He chose to laugh as families died. These were his choices, and he must answer for them. Vexther's lawyer, a human named Attorney Dongwon, did his best to defend his client. He argued about military protocol and chain of command. He tried to shift blame to the council leadership who authorized the attack. But the evidence was overwhelming, and even Dongwon knew it, when Judge Borum delivered her verdict. The courtroom was completely silent. "Admiral Vexther," she said, "this court finds you guilty of war crimes against civilian populations. You violated every law of war, every principle of military honor. You killed 847 people who posed no threat to you or your forces. The sentence is life imprisonment without possibility of parole." Vexther expected to be dragged to some dark cell and forgotten. Instead, he was taken to a comfortable prison where he would spend his days in safety. His species' dietary needs would be met. He would have books, entertainment, and regular health care. He would be treated humanely despite his inhuman actions. This lesson was not lost on the council observers. They saw that human justice was blind to species, that it applied equally to humans and aliens alike. They saw that even the worst criminals received dignity under human law, back in the council chambers. The galaxy was reorganizing itself around Earth's new position. Arbiter Thelman had resigned in disgrace, replaced by a coalition government that included representatives from species that had been marginalized under his rule. Diplomat Seojin took her place as Earth's permanent council representative. She was joined by Ambassador Kyung and a full staff of human advisors and experts. Earth's voice would now be heard in every council decision. The reparations to victims' families were paid quickly and in full. The Krylos Empire, embarrassed by their admiral's actions, contributed extra funds to establish a memorial for the dead. Other species, wanting to show support for humanity, donated to reconstruction efforts for the damaged Morning Star. Commander Daeho finally retired, as he had planned before the attack. He attended the memorial ceremony for the 847 victims, standing among their families. He watched as each name was read aloud, ensuring they would never be forgotten. Captain Minji received medals for her piloting skill in saving the Morning Star. She continued flying trade routes, but now Council warships would escort human civilian vessels. Protecting them from any future attacks, Admiral Bora was promoted to Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces and given an additional role as Council Fleet Advisor. Her tactical expertise was now available to help defend all Council species from external threats. Other species requested training from human military instructors. Wanting to learn the techniques that had proven so effective, Tactical Officer Ji-hoon became head of the new Joint Military Academy, where humans and aliens trained together. His students learned that true strength came from discipline, precision, and knowing when not to use force. Engineer Yuna and Engineer Sunho opened their research to Council scientists. The technology that had helped defeat Council forces would now be used to defend Council space. What had been weapons of war became tools of peace, strengthening defenses against pirates and hostile forces beyond Council borders. Medical Officer Yuna established exchange programs between human and alien medical facilities. The mercy she had shown to injured Council soldiers during the battle became the foundation for better cooperation in healthcare. Throughout the galaxy, the Krylos Empire, thoroughly humbled by their defeat, approached Earth, requesting a cultural exchange program. They wanted to understand the species that had beaten them so decisively. President Taijin agreed, seeing an opportunity to build friendship from former hostility. 3 months after the battle, Earth hosted the first Council Summit on human soil. Representatives from 40 species came to Geneva to discuss trade, security, and mutual cooperation. Defense Minister Haiwan gave a presentation on Earth's military philosophy that shocked many attendees. "We don't prepare for war because we love violence," she explained. "We prepare for war because we love peace. Strong defenses prevent conflicts from starting. The ability to respond with overwhelming force makes aggression against us unthinkable. And the discipline to use force only when absolutely necessary makes others trust us with that power." The speech was studied in military academies across the galaxy. It became the basis for new Council defense policies that emphasized deterrence over aggression, strength paired with restraint, On Earth's orbital station, where the damaged morning star had first arrived with news of the attack, a massive memorial was built. 847 lights, one for each victim, shone constantly in the darkness of space. Visitors from every council species came to pay their respects. Admiral Bora gave the dedication speech at the memorial's unveiling. She stood in her dress uniform, medals earned from decades of service reflecting the lights of the memorial. These 847 people died because someone believed humanity was weak, she said. They believed we would accept injustice without response. They believed wrong, but their mistake cost innocent lives, and that is a price that should never have been paid. She paused, looking at the thousands of beings gathered for the ceremony. Humans and aliens standing together, united in memory of those who had been lost. We responded to this tragedy with force, yes, but also with restraint. We could have killed thousands in revenge. We chose to kill none. We could have destroyed civilian populations as ours was destroyed. We chose to protect them instead. This is what it means to be human. We remember our pain, but we don't let it turn us into monsters. The memorial became a place of pilgrimage. Young officers from every species came to study the events that had changed the galaxy. They learned about the unprovoked attack, the measured response, and the justice that followed. They learned that true power meant having the strength to destroy, but the wisdom to choose mercy. President Taijin, in his annual address to Earth and the colonies, reflected on how much had changed. A year ago we were victims, he said. Today, we are protectors. Not just of humanity, but of the principles that make civilization possible. Justice, mercy, strength used in service of peace. These are the values we fought for, and these are the values we will continue to defend. Earth's position in the Council grew stronger with each passing month, not because humans sought power, but because they used it wisely. When disputes arose between species, they asked Earth to mediate. When pirates threatened trade routes, they requested human naval patrols. When new species sought Council membership, they looked to humanity as an example of how to balance strength with principle. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was not weak. They were patient. They were not aggressive. They were prepared. They were not cruel. They were just... And that combination made them the most dangerous species in known space. Because they could be trusted with power. Admiral Vexter, in his comfortable prison cell, watched broadcasts about Earth's growing influence. He finally understood the mistake he and the Council had made. They had seen humans as prey when they should have seen them as equals. They had mistaken patience for weakness and mercy for cowardice. In a private journal he kept, Vexter wrote about his realization. I thought killing humans would be easy, he wrote. I thought they would beg and plead and accept their place beneath us. Instead, they taught me what it truly means to be civilized. They defeated me without becoming like me. They punished me without torturing me. They proved their strength while maintaining their principles. I wish I had understood this before 847 people died for my arrogance. Years later, when new species joined the galactic community, they were told the story of Earth's ruthless retaliation. They learned how a peaceful species had become warriors when pushed, how they had struck with devastating force while maintaining perfect moral clarity, and how they had used their victory not to dominate, but to improve the galaxy for everyone. The story became a legend, told around campfires and in academies, in council chambers, and military briefings. It was the story of how humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through conquest or submission, but through the rarest combination of all, the strength to fight when necessary, and the wisdom to stop when justice was served. The memorial lights continued to shine in Earth's orbit. 847 points of light in the darkness. They served as a reminder of what had been lost, what had been won, and what it truly meant to be human in a galaxy that had finally learned to respect them.